I died right there. They did pronounce the body dead. They put the body in a bag. I felt that tremendous love come over me. I turned around and I saw this older man with long white hair, long white beard, just glistening pink skin. And without him moving his mouth, he sent back to me, "I'm just your guide. I'm here to help you go wherever you want to go." I had never seen his picture, never heard his name, but yet here he was, larger than life. He helped me understand that the reason that I even came to Earth was to come to a school, that Earth was not some type of courtroom. It's always been a classroom. It's a place that we go to learn. So I looked to him and I said, "This energy that I feel coming off of you, it feels like love, like unconditional love. What is this? I want to go where this is coming from." And that's when he explained that that was coming from my home, that it was coming from his home as well, that he could take both of us back to our home. And that's when we began our journey. We began our amazing, beautiful journey through time and space to go back home.
The A.J. Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast.
I'm here with Vinnie Tolman. He had an amazing near-death experience. Hello, Vinnie. Can you give us the details of what really happened the day that you had your NDE?
Back in 2003, I had taken a new supplement. Me and one of my best friends, we took this supplement together. We both felt instantly ill. We both knew it was bad. We decided to go down the street to a little fast food joint and thought that if we got something to eat, we would both feel better. We barely made it in the door. I made it into the bathroom. He made it into the dining room. He collapsed on the dining booth and started to vomit. I, meanwhile, went into that bathroom and locked the door. I collapsed and I started to vomit. But what happened to me is no one knew I went in there. So I was in there by myself. I aspirated. I ended up suffocating on my own vomit, which ended my life. I died right there. Meanwhile, my buddy, the manager of the restaurant saw him. They called emergency services. They took him away in an ambulance, pumped his stomach and released him from the hospital not too long after being checked in. But again, meanwhile with me, I'm dead on the floor in that bathroom. About an hour later, about 45 minutes to 60 minutes later, the manager of the restaurant opened up that bathroom to find my dead body on the floor. And I do remember what was happening from that point. I remember from my perspective that the room was getting very dizzy. I felt like the room was starting to spin on me and or starting to move. And the next thing I knew, I was looking down. I was seeing this scene of a dead body on the ground. And I could see that my buddy had been just taken away in an ambulance. But again, I was seeing it from up above the whole scene. I watched them take him away. I was worried about him, but as soon as I saw the ambulance come, I knew he was going to be okay. But as I was watching, I knew also that nobody could see this dead guy inside the bathroom. I didn't think it was me. And this is hard for people to understand, but I was up here, up above, looking down at the scene. So there's no possible way that it was me down there. Your brain just doesn't go there, or my psychology, my thoughts, my consciousness, it never went there. It kept thinking that that's something outside you. So I didn't even think for a moment that that was me. I watched as they called emergency services for the second time that day. I watched as an ambulance crew got there. They pronounced the body dead. They tried to do chest compressions and a few other things, but nothing worked. They did pronounce the body dead. They put the body in a bag and they put that body in the back of the ambulance while they filled out paperwork. They filled out witness statements and a few other paperworks that they needed to have filled out. As they were doing that, there was a rookie. This rookie, he was the third guy on the team. He was sitting in the back of that ambulance, and it was his job to sit with the body and to babysit the body. Well, the whole time that he was sitting back there, I could hear his thoughts. I could hear vividly all of his thoughts. I could hear that he wanted to do more. He felt like they didn't do enough. And by the time his coworkers got to the ambulance and they pulled away, he was essentially in a praying mindset, or an asking mindset, asking God, is there something else he could do? And when he was asking that, I felt a very strong energy go over me where I was watching everything. I felt this energy go over me, and I felt it hit him, and I felt it say very loudly, this one's not dead. The medic, the rookie, he didn't do anything, but I could tell he received the message. And only another half block later, the message came again, even stronger the second time. And when the message came the second time, he acted. He undid some straps on the body bag. He felt around for a pulse. He didn't feel one. He kept going though. He went ahead and undid more straps on the body bag and was feeling around the groin, around the inside of the leg for a pulse. And when he did that, he felt something. And to him, that was enough of some kind of a sign to go ahead and try to resuscitate this body. He had just been trained on all of these things, so it was very fresh in his mind. He wanted to try all these things that he had just been trained on. So he was able to get oxygen into the lungs, and he hooked up a defib machine. And then this defib machine, he was able to get it hooked up and shock the body to bring the heart back, to activate the heart. The first shock didn't do anything. The second shock, he got a single heartbeat. And then the third round of shocks, he got a steady, faint heartbeat. And when all of that happened, one of the miracles to me is this all happened about a half of a block away from a hospital. So they were able to immediately take the body and turn it into the hospital and get the body the treatment that it needed to bring all the other systems back online. Now, as they were transferring the body from the ambulance into the medical gurney at the hospital, I felt them strapping me down where I was. And again, I was up above all of this. I was not part of it. I was just watching everything secondhand. But at this point, when they strapped that body down, I looked down and I saw them strapping me down. And that's when I had the first moment, the first thought that what I'd been watching was my own death. And I had no idea. I truly had no idea up until that point. The way it felt to me is if you pull up to a stoplight in your car and you look next to you and there's another car that looks like you and somebody who's driving it that looks just like you, but you don't think, hey, that's me. You think me is over here in this car. That's what it felt like. I felt so ignorant to not know that what I had been watching the whole time was my own death. So I started to spin and have all this fear energy come over me. It felt like it was starting to smother me. And that's when I started to see every bad thing that I ever did. Every bad thing. Even when I was a small child, I saw those things. I saw the bad things that I did from my perspective, but also the perspective of those who received my bad behavior. So I saw from both directions anything bad I ever did, including something so simple as like a shoplifting or something like that. I saw everything. And as that was all coming forward in me, I had this thought, like, am I worth saving? Am I worth existing? If this is all that I am I worth existing? And as soon as I had that thought, this warmth, it started to come over me across my back. And this warmth, it started around the middle of my back, and it warmed over my shoulders. It warmed over my body. And then I started to see all the good that I ever did. And I mean, every little thing that I ever did was good. I got to see it. Also got to see it from the perspective of those who received it. And I got to see that I did far more good than I ever did bad. I also got to see that when I did good for people, even when I didn't know I was, they in turn did good for others. So I got to see the butterfly effect or second generation, third generation effects of my good behavior, my good service to my fellow man. And as I was witnessing all of this, I felt that tremendous love come over me. And I knew it was coming from behind me. So I wanted to see what this was that was coming from behind me. I turned around, and that's when I thought I saw God. I saw this older man with long white hair, long white beard, just glistening pink skin. His skin glistened like sand at a sunset. It just glistened beautifully. And when I first saw him, I had the thought, oh, you must be God. And without him moving his mouth, he sent back to me somehow, because there they communicate without words. But I instantly heard him say in my mind, no, son, I'm not God. And my only follow-up thought was, if you're not God, is there some way that you're Jesus? And he followed up with, no, I'm not Jesus either. I'm just your guide. He said, my name is Drake. I'm here to help you go wherever you want to go. I can help you go back to your body. I can help you go anywhere you want to go in the universe. And I thought about it for a moment. I knew I didn't want to go back to my body, because looking back at my body, it looked horrible. There was so much trauma going on around the body. I knew I didn't want that. So I looked to him and I asked him, this energy that I feel coming off of you, it feels like love, like unconditional love. What is this? I want to go where this is coming from. And that's when he explained that was coming from my home. And it was coming from his home as well, that he could take both of us back to our home. And that's when we began our journey. We began our amazing, beautiful journey through time and space to go back home. What we would call here on earth, we would call heaven. To the eternities, it's just our home. It's where we came from. So we began this journey. It was not just the proverbial journey, not just the existential journey, but it was a physical journey. We had to go from the earthly dimension to this much higher dimension. Even though it was in the same space, it felt like we were going to a completely different space. I could feel space and time moving fastly around us as we were moving. And one of the first things that Drake showed me is that I had to understand certain principles, certain understandings, and that I didn't have to embrace them. I just had to understand that they were possibly real or possibly true. And if I could accept that they were possibly real, then I could move forward in my progress towards my home. And as soon as he said that, I showed him, I said, hey, you don't have to worry about me. I was raised Christian. I struggled there a bit, but I was back on my Christian path. I was following the Lord, and I was ready to go to heaven. He could just show me the door. And he loved and I felt that way, but he also needed me to know that it wasn't so simple, that I actually needed to understand the very principles that would allow me to get to that heavenly realm. And that the first principle I needed to understand was not just following a savior. It was not just understanding the love of a savior, but it was actually understanding that I needed to be authentic. I needed to find out who I was authentically without all the masks that I put on myself. So he helped me helped me understand and see all the different ways that I did put on masks on myself. And he helped me peel them away to see what was beneath it. And it was just me. It was just me behind all those masks. And that it was the me that I was seeing that was being allowed to get towards heaven or into heaven. And then he helped me understand that the reason that I even came to earth was to come to a school. That earth was not some type of courtroom. It's always been a classroom. Even though religion messes that up a little bit, it's always been a classroom. It's a place to go and learn. And that's it. And just like anywhere that you go and learn, what goes on here is important, but it is not the only thing going on in the universe. That we have to understand, just like going to a university or just like going to a school, it's a place that we go to learn. And what we get out of our learning is what we put into our learning. And for some of us, that means, a lot of hardship so that we can grow and progress quite a bit. For others of us, we have an easy life and it's not hard, and we grow a little bit, not as much as those with the little bit harder lives. And Drake showed me that every single one of us selected our own lives. We selected our trials, we selected our obstacles, we selected our successes and our failures so that we could come here and grow. And that's when he showed me that the third thing that I needed to understand to get into my home was that I needed to love everyone. He showed me the principle of the pointed finger, that when I point my finger at someone, I'm pointing my finger just as much at God as I am at them. And that I'm also pointing 3 fingers on my hand back at myself. And that I have to be very careful about what I put out of myself as far as energy and word. And that if I can put negative out of me, I will get negative. If I put positive out of me, I will get positive. And that's part of loving everyone, is understanding that we put out to the universe, put out to God, that is what we receive from God eventually. So if we're living a very positive life and we start speaking negative things, we will eventually have a negative life because of the negative things we speak. And vice versa. If we're on the negative path and we start speaking positive things, we will start shifting and actually having positive things in our life. But he taught me that every single one of us that are here on Earth School, that we all have an inner voice. We all have a direct connection to the Creator. And that if we can better understand what that is and master that connection, then we get a stronger connection to the Creator, get a stronger connection to the eternities, to heaven or home, to our angels, to those who would help us on our journey. And that all of us have that inner voice, every single one of us. But it's up to us to develop that inner voice. And that if we have that inner voice, it's so important for us to use technology responsibly, because the technology itself will try to replace the inner voice, and it will. For many people today, the first thing they do when they wake up is they seek out their entertainment. They seek out their God, which for most people, their God is right here on their phones and not actually God. And it's up to us that if we want to have a strong presence of God in our lives, we've got to honor the first 30 minutes when we wake up and the last 30 minutes before we go to bed, and create that time as a sacred time. I personally call that the hour of power. That's the hour every day where you're telling the universe who you are and what's important to you. So it's vitally important that we put good things in our hour of power, whether that be prayer or meditation or quiet contemplation or reading scripture or or Torah or Quran or whatever works for us. But putting God in that place, we will get God showing up in our lives so much stronger. And that led me to understanding that if I can use technology responsibly, then I have to take the next step, and that is to release all my prejudices of any kind. And that includes my own prejudice towards prejudiced people. And that was a big one for me because I didn't feel I was prejudiced whatsoever. But yet I was prejudiced towards prejudiced people. So he showed me how to release that, how to understand that even the worst of us have a story behind us. And that if we fully understand that story, we're going to judge them less. And that if I want to be in the best place possible for my home, for my heaven, I had to release that completely. I had to even love all people, all beings, all creatures, all animals, all everything on earth. And if I could do that, I could gain the power of creation. And he showed me that the power of creation is within all of us, and it is our thoughts. That if we can control our thoughts, we can create our reality. If we cannot control our thoughts, we cannot control our reality. We cannot create our reality. But it starts with our thoughts. That is the power of creation. And if our thoughts are the power of creation, how important it is for us to avoid all negative influences. We all have influences around us that are negative. Inherently, they're around us, but we don't need to seek out negative influences. If we seek out positive influences, that makes us have an easier power of creation. It makes us have an easier way to keep our thoughts under control and keep them always in a positive direction. And that's when I was shown that in this life, there is purpose to evil. That for us to have a good choice, there has to be a bad choice. That if all there was a good choice, there would be no choice. And it's having us come here, learning to make choices. That's what allows us to grow. And that's when Drake got me to the last principle before I actually got to heaven. And that is that as I can encompass all of those 9 principles, it gets me to the 10th principle of what he was showing me. And that is that we're all one. Every single one of us are fingers on God's hands. And that for me to hate or hurt another finger on God's hands, it is for me to hate or hurt myself. And there's no difference between me hating someone else and hating myself. That if I truly love myself, I can learn to love all people, all beings, and all of God's creation. And when I got through that last principle, I actually got into this beautiful realm that is beyond words, truly beyond words. This is the part I had the hardest time writing about in my experience, is because this part of my experience is beyond words, truly beyond words. It took us a year just to get the description proper, where I felt like I honored what I saw, but I got to see this kingdom, this realm, this holy space that is built for all of us. And as I touched my feet down in this space, I felt that I was finally home. I felt like this grass knew who I was. I felt like I knew who this grass was. I could feel the supreme love of our Creator from every single blade of grass. The grass itself had the most beautiful music coming off of it. It also had this very sweet, savory flavor. Just to touch it, you would taste the sweet, savory flavor. You could see little waves of light and rainbows coming off of the grass itself. And the grass itself emitted light. Light was actually coming from the grass, which that was really weird for me, because on Earth, light doesn't come from anything but lights. Like we see light coming from our lights or from the sun, but not from everything around us. And in that heaven space, everything emits light. So the grass actually emitted light. And as I was kind of freaking out with the grass and just loving every second connecting to the grass, Drake looked at me and said, if you think the grass is good, you need to see the flowers. And I about lost it. I couldn't contain myself. I was like, there's flowers. I got so excited. And instantly I was on the petal of a flower and I was experiencing the fluid light that exists inside of these flowers. And now, additional to what I was experiencing to the grass, there was even a whole nother depth that I experienced with the flowers, with the light, with the smell, with the flavor, with the love energy. And it felt like just a warm hug just to even be near these flowers. And as I was witnessing that, then Drake showed me trees and I freaked out about the trees. And as I was freaking out about the trees, then I felt something touch my foot. And when I looked down, I saw water. I saw that there was this little stream, and part of the stream had come out of itself and come over to me, and it had touched my toe. And I felt the stream actually ask me, do you want us on you? And I said, yes, I do want you on me. And so the stream came up over me, and it started with my feet, went up to my knees and up to my hips, up to my shoulders. And then it actually went out to the edge of both arms till it was encapsulating both hands. And then it continued up over the top of my whole body. And as it completed at the top of my being, and this is a weird thing for me because we do have a body there. It was not a physical body. It's an energetic body, but it's very real. It's very tangible. I would say even more tangible than our bodies here. But as this water completely encapsulated all that I was and am, I felt that it had this loving energy of healing me of all these traumas that I received in my life. And I had a really rough life growing up. Many abuses, starting as little as about 3 years old, until 14. And a lot of abuse. And I watched all the cracks and all the dark spots that were in my soul. I watched them completely heal and become one as this water came over my body. And as soon as it had completed, it felt like it had done its job. And so it started to recede back off of me. And I was left there, in a weird way. I wasn't wet at all, but yet I was cool. I was warm. I was electrified in living energy. And I could feel I was coming forward as a new being, a new form of life after that water. And I feel like the baptism that we see on earth, it's a copy of what the water does for us in this heaven space. And that's when I looked over, as the water came off me, I did notice that there was this building off to the distance. I could tell it was a school. I don't know how I knew it was a school, but I knew it was a school. I knew it was a school where you can go and learn anything that you want to learn. And I was so excited to see this school. And that's when Drake came up to me as I was observing the school. He came up to me and he said, Vinny, this is going to be very hard, but it's going to be worth it. And that's instantly I started to hear my brother. He was saying a prayer over my body in the hospital. What I didn't know at this time is my body was brain dead in a hospital, and it had been brain dead for 3 days. It had been in a coma for 3 days. And at the end of those 3 days, my brother was giving my body a prayer, special blessing. And with that prayer, he commanded me to be made whole. He commanded my soul to come back to my body. He commanded my spirit to return. And when he finished that prayer, I felt very fast. I was removed out of the heavenly realm and I was put back in my body. But right before I was put back in my body, the way that time works is time doesn't exist in heaven, doesn't exist at all. And so time only exists here on earth. And as that was happening, they were slotting me into my time. I could see far into the future. I could see far into the past. And I could see that our past is our future and our future is our past. And that we are on one big cycle on the earth school. And that if you do look far enough ahead, you're going to see our future and see our past all in one. But I woke up. My brother had said this prayer around 10 p.m. I woke up at 1:11 in the morning. I woke up totally fine. There's documented 47 minutes of no oxygen, no heart rate, but I was dead likely an hour before they found me. It's all public record through the medical transport. I didn't have any of the problems they said I was going to have. I went through an entire battery of tests, and I was able to check myself out of that hospital at 7:30 in the morning, only 6 hours after I woke up. And as I checked myself out of that hospital, I wish I could say that's where my experience ended, but it didn't. That's where my experience really began, is because I struggled for months. I struggled thinking that number one, I only wanted to go back home. I only wanted to go back to heaven. I also struggled with trying to understand, was this a real experience or was this a delusion? I had doctors telling me that this was some kind of delusion and that there's no way it was real. But then shortly after that, I got to meet with a doctor. He was writing me a prescription. He was trying to put me on some medicine. And I had a beautiful lady come to me in the middle of that session and talk to me. And she told me that she was this doctor's grandmother, and she had a message that I needed to deliver to him before I could take this medicine from him. And so I did. I delivered that message in blind faith. I followed what that spirit told me to do. And the doctor reacted by saying, "Get out of my office." And left nothing else said. He just said, "Get the bleep out of my office." I left his office. Only a few minutes later, he did call me on my cell phone. And he explained, he said, "Vinny, whatever's going on for you, it has to be real, because what you revealed to me was something even he had forgotten. Something that he had been packed away in his own subconsciousness or consciousness since he was a young boy. And that whatever happened to me, I needed to figure it out, that psychiatry and psychology was not going to have answers for me. Because here he was a doctor, and knowing both fields so well, he knew that both fields didn't have answers for me with my experience, that I needed to go more of the spiritual route for my answers. And so I did. I really worked with clergy. I worked with a lot of different religions. I started studying heavily, every religion I could study, to find more divine truths. And I found them. I found them everywhere. And I found that our Creator really wants us to have that personal connection with heaven and with our Creator. That's why we have so many religions. And so that connection can be made no matter where we were born, no matter how we were raised. And, I ended up meeting this beautiful woman, only about a few weeks after this appointment with that doctor. I met a beautiful woman who was best friends with one of my friends. And we instantly hit it off, and we started to spend every moment together. And she ended up being my saving grace with all of this. It was only, we met in April, and this is Andrea, my wife, and we've been married 21 years now. She helped me want to go to any family event that I could. And prior to this experience, that wasn't really my thing. I was a young 25-year-old. I didn't want to go do family things, but she helped me want to go do family things. I went to a family reunion in a little town of Afton, Wyoming. And while we were there, we watched a presentation on the history of the town. And up on the big screen came a picture of Drake. And prior to that, again, I had never seen his face before my experience. When I saw it up on the big screen, my body froze. I started to shake and to quiver. I didn't know how to process that. The part that really confused me is it said his name was Charles. It didn't say his name was Drake. But I recognized the last name as the same last name as my grandmother's maiden name. So I went directly to my grandmother and I asked her, I said, Grandma, who is this Charles Kazare? And her exact response was, oh, you mean great grandpa Drake? He's kind of famous. And so she had lots of stories for me. I started to learn about my guide, who it turned out to be that he was my great, great, great grandfather on my grandmother's side. A man who, again, I had never seen his picture, never heard his name, but yet here he was, larger than life. And now I had a second strong confirmation that my experience was a real thing. It was not some hallucination or delusion. And from that, I've really tried to change the way I live, especially with the things that I saw that are coming. I saw that in the near future, that the entire planet looks very different. I saw that there's an inland ocean in the middle of the United States. I saw that there is all sorts of seismic changes that are happening to the entire planet. And amongst all of that, I saw these beautiful cities of light, and they go all over the earth. And that as these cities of light start growing and being built by community. And when I say community, I mean people start gathering in sacred places all over the earth, and they start building community. And they start first with the energy of community, and then they start building actual buildings of community. And as that's going on, the earth itself is essentially having a separation of society. People are either choosing to go towards the inner light and joining one of these communities, or they're going into survival mode, where they're going into these, broke down cities, and they're fighting each other, they're killing each other, they're robbing each other, raping each other. They're doing all of the selfish path that they can to try to survive. And that I saw that the entire planet splits. It becomes either you're going towards the light, towards the community, or you're going towards the selfish, towards the survival. And I feel that it's still quite a ways off, but I don't feel it's that far away though. I feel like the earth is well on its way towards that trajectory. But I'll tell you that if you lean towards the community, lean towards that light, that inner light, it guides you to the right place. It guides you to the right time and the right people where you find your community. And it will feel as if you're finding family that you've always known, even though you don't know their name or where they came from. You know it's your family. And amongst these communities, we see great miracles, true miracles. People will come into these communities with cancers and problems, and the community itself will come around in love and support of each individual. And as they do, they will heal them completely of anything that is ailing the body, anything. And of course, the healing is only limited by the belief of the individual who's receiving the healing. But the healings are powerful and miraculous. And that these happen all over in all of these communities of light. And it seems as if our Creator is allowing the earth to separate its ego and its soul, its spirit and its ego from itself. And that those who dwell in those communities of light, they're able to see the change that is possible for all of us. And the entire planet goes to a higher place as this is happening. And then from there, there's also some beautiful things ahead. And I'll tell you that if you're dwelling in the ego space or in the edging God out space, if you're dwelling in that space, you end up feeling like God is being pushed away from you, that your divinity is being squished out of you. And so for me, I definitely want to triangulate my life towards living towards those communities of light.
What would you say is the religion in heaven?
In heaven, there is no religion. Religion is something for earth to help get us closer to heaven. When we have heaven obtained within us, we have no need of religion. Religion is it's kind of like a ladder to help us climb. But once we're there, we don't need the religion anymore.
Do you have several inner guides?
I've got a team of helpers, and I call them my guides. In religion, we call that the Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit or the Spirit. And what it is, it's partially representatives working for the Creator and partially representatives working for my ancestry. And they work together and they guide all of us, and everybody has guides. Everybody has guides. The question is, do we listen to them? But I'll give you a perfect example when someone's listening to their guides and they don't know that they are. You're going about your regular day and all of a sudden someone's name or their face just pops into your head. And the first thing you think of when you see their face in your mind is you think, hey, I need to reach out to that person. And if you reach out to them, you'll hear them say something like, wow, I was just thinking of you too. And this is great to connect. If you don't reach out to them, then they're going to call you, or you're going to see them, in going out on the town, you'll see them face to face. But there's a reason why we have this connectiveness. All of us are connected through the quantum fabric of life, through the spirit of life. We are all connected. And if we can allow that connection to be electrical, we get a much better connection with our spirit guides, with our ancestors, with our loved ones, or as religion puts it, the Holy Ghost. You get a stronger connection with your Holy Ghost.
You talked about 10 keys or conditions in order to go to heaven. Can you list them?
Everybody's individual, and God really has a love for each and every one of us individually. And God knew that I needed specifically these 10 principles for my own progress. So I don't go out there and say this is everybody's 10 principles, but I'll tell you, most of them have a blanket application for all of us. They all do. So the first one was to learn to be authentic. So I'll just tell you all 10 of them. So be authentic, know the purpose of life. Life is a classroom, not a courtroom. So that's number 2. And then love everyone is number 3. And number 4 is listen to your inner voice. And then the 5th one is use technology responsibly. And 4 and 5 go together. So listening to your inner voice and using technology responsibly go hand in hand. If you're not using technology responsibly, it's hard to listen to that inner voice. And that goes to the 6th principle, which is release all prejudice, including for prejudiced people. That was a hard one for me. But the 7th is the power of creation is our thoughts. Our thoughts are how we create in this world, in this realm. And then the 8th is avoid negative influences. And number 9, there's purpose in evil. There has to be evil for there to be good. There has to be an opposite choice for there to be a good choice. And that is the purpose of evil. And then the 10th principle that he taught me was that we're all one, all of us. That if I'm driving down the street and I'm getting very upset at someone driving on the street, I'm only getting upset at me. And if I'm watching some program and it's politics or it's this or it's that, and I hate what I'm seeing on the TV, I'm hating an aspect of me. That all of us are fingers on God's hands. And so we can't hate each other. It's to hate ourselves. But that was the 10 principles. Yeah. I call them principles because they are, to me, they stand out individually, each one of them as principles. Yeah. It's just my experience, but I'll tell you, I learned so much with what I do. I do personal coaching for people. I do helping them heal from traumas. And I learn more with what they are able to do with their own guidance than what I could ever learn from me. So I really appreciate that, AJ. And I appreciate you for having this channel, because there's a lot of entertainment options out there. I love that you're an opportunity, an alternative to be something positive for people. So thank you for being that option. That's tremendous.
If someone wants to contact you, how can they do this?
So they could do that through my website. It's livinggodslight.com. I help people live within the light of God or within the light of the deity that they believe in. And I do all of that through my nonprofit, livinggodslight.com. If people want to contact me or work with me in any type of capacity, you can do so by connecting on my website at livinggodslight.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Perry. I just finished re-releasing a book I wrote with Dr. Raymond Moody in 1990. The book is called Reunions. I want to thank AJ Parr for helping with the technical aspects of doing this book, doing the layout, and he had great advice on how to do a new cover, which he did, and it's beautiful. And all the technical aspects of reissuing a book and how to use Kindle Direct, which is a wonderful service, and communicating with Kindle Direct. But he was also more than that. He was moral support. He would read through the book. He would fact check. He did proofing for the book. And he made a number of really brilliant suggestions for editorial changes. So I highly recommend working with AJ Parr, and I'll be doing more books with him in the future. So thank you, AJ. I'll be dealing with you a lot more.
If you're interested in publishing your book in Amazon, contact me, and my publishing team and I will lend you a friendly hand. Send your email to ajparbooks@gmail.com. That's ajparbooks@gmail.com. Stairway to Heaven, 25 near-death experiences about our encounters with God, Jesus, and paradise. Journalistic research on real cases by AJ Parr.
I looked down, there's no body. There's no me, but I felt just like me. And my first thoughts was, wow, this must be heaven. The whole Bible, Jesus, God thing is really true. And I said, if you're praying and you talk to God, it's just like that. It's God, you need to send people back so they can tell people it's real. Send some back. They have no idea this is real.
So there was quite a bunch of activity that they were doing during this time. And so, I know they were working on me really hard, but the whole time that I was gone, I went to heaven. So as far as what I was experiencing, it was wonderful, and I was able to see God and to see Jesus.
I turned and I said to this one leader character who had come and collected me, I said, "Who are you? Who are you exactly? You're not the same as these," because he was not the same as the other angels. And he seemed to be the one that was emanating this incredible love more than anyone else. And he just looked at me and said, I am the one you call Lord. Now, for me, there's only one person in all of history that I call Lord, and that's Jesus. And this was Jesus that I was sitting in front of. And that really did overwhelm me at that point.
I remember feeling all this light, seeing light all around me. And I was just like, when you're in a deep state of meditation, when you go so deep that you don't see what's around you, you just become one with the light. So that's what happened to me. I became one with the light.
At that point, I was turned upward, my spirit was, and I was aiming towards the sky. And I saw a beautiful, bright white, but it isn't a white that we can describe. So it's the brightest light you could imagine here on earth, but without being blinding.
I cannot die right now. You take me back. I have a lot to do right now. I said, no, you make a promise to me and you need to fulfill your promise. So welcome to heaven. From today, you're part of me and part of all of them. From today, you start walking with me and walking with all of them. Love is the most powerful force in the universe, and that's why I'm going to unite the whole humanity again. And then he said, okay, he put his hands around me and said, let's do a live review.
I just really became fascinated with the light and became just the joy and the love of God and just the peace of God just began to wash over me. I just began to look at my arms and, it's not a light like you just turn on. This light had like particles. It was just like moving and just covering my arms and my body.
When I was enveloped with that bliss and joy, at first it was all just a bright, warm light. And then it started to like settle down and take form. And it felt like I was in a cathedral, maybe with the marble walls and high ceiling or something, but it was still kind of misty looking. And I know that I had looked over to the right and I saw a good sized, like an architect's table with a great big, huge book, like a huge Bible or something, open about halfway. And I remember somebody telling me what was in that book. And I believe it was my life. And I was only halfway through.
Stairway to Heaven, 25 near-death experiences about encounters with God, Jesus, and paradise. Journalistic research on real cases by A.J. Parr.
This has been the A.J. Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe.